One of the things we get asked a lot is about choice of technology for building user interfaces, and we all come from different backgrounds and where we've been spending time lately. So we thought it would be good to get together and have a go at looking at those options. So where do we start? Where's the best place to start having that conversation? So when somebody walks up to you and says, you know, which is the right technology from Microsoft, how would you start, Mike? Where would you go?
So what were those technologies you were just talking about? You said HTML.
I said HTML.
So we've got HTML.
I think at the other end of the spectrum, I had native client. So I was thinking, you know, C++,
client.
MFC, those kind of applications. Visual Basic 6 applications.
That's kind of Win32.
Win32.
And you said Windows Forms?
Windows Forms, part of .NET.
So that's sort of here somewhere, I guess?
Yeah.
WinForms?
Yeah. And pretty much that's where all the conversations were 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, between those three.
And so I guess some of the web things have moved on a little bit, Mike, in the meantime?
Yeah, so the Ajax extension sort of introduced the whole Ajax model to the ASP.NET world, so you could move slightly to the left of your... I'm implicitly got a spectrum here, but you can move slightly to the left of your HTML box and put the Ajax piece.
Okay, so we can kind of add Ajax in here as a client.
And nicely, you've got two gaps, which would go for filling in with Silverlight and WPF.
Yeah, suspiciously we do have two obvious gaps on this diagram, so we could drop in maybe, I guess you're thinking Silverlight here.
I think Silverlight there.
So I'll just put Silverlight in there, SL. And over here, which is a native Win32 client, just like Windows Forms, we can put in WPF.
But I'm guessing that on the right hand side you've got the applications that are the most challenging to build very rich environments in, and on the left hand side you've got technologies that are much easier to build a very rich experience.
Yeah, so I think one of the ways you can consider this is you could say that going in this direction, you probably have, possibly with the exception of Windows Forms and Silverlight, which might need switching over, you might have a sort of richness of UI. So generally speaking, it's harder to build a really rich, you know, people don't really write games in standards-based HTML, and as you go in this direction, we get richer and richer. Maybe Windows Forms isn't in the right place for that axis, WPF. We get richer experiences as we head down that space. So one way we can consider these things is about how rich a UI does your user want. But there's lots of other ways that we could consider these boxes. So how else would we put...
We started off with the deployment angle, didn't we? So Eric brought up the, you know, what's your environment, how easy is it to deploy? There's a whole deployment axis to this question as well.
Yeah, I think that's true. So I guess we're saying that deployment of HTML, I tend to call that F5 deployment. You put a new page on the server, you press F5, the user's got it. That's kind of it. So you could look at a deployment sort of complexity.
So let's write down some axes then.
So we're setting deployment axes up.
Okay, and which direction are we having the
We're not
deployment?
going to say that bit, yeah.
Oh,
Just
okay.
on a line.
Just on a line, okay. Yeah. It's just a line, okay, so let's call this deployment.
What about one for toolage?
Toolage.
Toolage.
Is that a word? Toolage?
It can be for the purpose of
Okay, and you want an arrow on
I want
toolage?
just a line on
for
yeah.
toolage, okay, fine. Let's have toolage.
Tooling.
Okay,
Yeah.
tooling.
What about dopey?
What is dopey? I hear a lot about dopey these days. What is that? Is he a friend of Bashful and Sleepy?
I understand it's your favourite term for depth of platform integration.
Depths of platform integration.
Oh, put dopey down.
Let's put dopey on here. And I'm actually going to write him as dopey because it's too hard to
He
write
has got a
out.
friend called Richie as well.
Richie is already kind of on here.
Well,
we kind of got
he's the inverse.
Richie's already here with up at the top. Oh no, we got Richie.
You've got Richie.
We not got
You've got
Richie.
Richie. Put Richie
Okay.
down.
I thought Richie was Richie.
No,
That's ridiculous. So where did we want
Richie, no?
Richie as well, do we?
And does your dopey include or exclude security?
No, I don't think it really does
Well, that's
include
security.
security. So security's in here as well somewhere.
Conveniently ends with a Y.
I can't easily write security from this angle.
And what about maturity?
Maturity.
Maturity.
Okay, maturity.
And we won't spend much time on maturity because it goes slightly off the video.
Okay, we'll forget maturities off the bottom of the screen.
Right, so which way would you put the arrows on there? So deployment, ease of deployment.
So generally speaking, I think we can look at these boxes and say it's pretty easy to deploy HTML-based applications, JavaScript-based applications. It's not very hard. You put them on a server, you're in business. Same kind of true for Silverlight applications. Chuck it on any web server, you're in business. WPF and native applications, generally speaking, more difficult to deploy these things. So if you're looking at ease of deployment, I'd say we kind of go like that.
Right, okay. Tooling then, the availability of tools, the availability of controls.
For me, I kind of think all of these areas have got pretty good tooling across the Microsoft platform. I think we've got good tooling at this end of the line, and very good tooling at that end of the line, you know, so expression blend.
Although fair to say the expectation's different. So when we talk about good tooling for HTML, we still expect to have to go and dig around in HTML from time to time in our daily lives. Whereas we talk about good tooling for WPF or Windows Forms, we might reasonably expect not to dig around so much.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think the expectation has been different, but I think over the last few years the expectation's probably changed. And I know competitors have pretty good tooling for HTML and JavaScript, and so we need to have that as well. So for me, I would say this is kind of a both directional line, in that I think there's good tooling here, and I think there's good tooling there as well.
Okay. Dopey.
Dopey, our friend, the depth of platform integration. Well, we know this. If you write something, any kind of native application, you write a WPF application over here, then you can do what you want. You have all of the .NET Framework available to you, you have all of the Windows platform available to you. You can do anything you like on the machine you're running on. As we move this way, Silverlight, you can't do all of those things. There's a limited set of things you can do with the OS from a Silverlight application, whether that be running on a Mac or on Windows. And obviously the cross-platform nature of Silverlight makes that restriction. And so there's some things you can do from Silverlight. You can call nicely across the network to services and that kind of thing. You can talk to the local machine and store a few things and read a few things, but it is strictly limited by design. Okay. So that's there. And obviously this end of the spectrum, I guess, we can't really do that much.
Yeah, and I was going to say there's other aspects too, as well as the sort of what you can access. There's control and sync with things like hardware acceleration, etc. You can enjoy the benefits of all the latest hardware towards the left-hand side, something WPF, whereas that very rapidly tails off as you move towards the right-hand side of the.
Absolutely. So I guess Dopey was saying is a big arrow this way. Okay, yeah. Cool. And then we get into its friend Richie. How Richie are we on these technologies?
I guess the arrow points to the right.
I guess it has to, doesn't it? Yeah. So very easy, broad base of users have web browsers that can display HTML. Yeah. Some of them switch off JavaScript, some of them don't have Silverlight, some of them don't have .NET, some of them don't have .NET 3.0 onwards. So I guess we have to say that the more people you want to reach, you need to be over this way.
But it'd be fair to say, again, if we just look at, because we had to put boxes in a certain order, native Win32 has more reach than, say, Windows Forms and WPF, and arguably Silverlight.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the boxes are not always in the right order depending on which axis you're looking at.
But broadly, that's the direction.
Yeah.
Security, and in security we'll look at things like sandboxes and stuff like that. So, security. If we talk about the amount of control we have, I guess we have the most control when we're on the left, because we can either kind of turn it all off or turn it all on. But that's probably not the most useful way of thinking about security.
Exposing yourself to the greatest degree of risk.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe security is the wrong word, but yes. So when we're dealing with things like Silverlight, we run in a sandbox.
Yeah, so I guess we're wondering whether security is kind of 1 over Dopey.
Yeah.
I think this could be an equation we come up with in the session. S equals 1 over Dopey.
Yes, it feels like that.
It's probably our original thought for the session. Is S 1 over Dopey? The question remains to be answered on the public web. S equals 1 over Dopey. I don't know. So yeah, definitely we all expect that when we go out to the public internet, we're running a nice tight browser sandbox. That sandbox got even tighter when we came to Windows Vista, was running internet browser on Windows Vista. We don't expect these things to be able to reformat the hard drive or gather some, I won't tell you this, but I have a file on my machine called accounts.txt. I really don't want a web browser reading that file and sending it somewhere on the internet. Silverlight can do a little bit more, these things can do a lot more. So is it that we expose ourselves to more risk down here and less sandboxed, more control over sandboxes? Silverlight runs in a sandbox, we have no control over that. WPF has pure code access security, so even though you can run a WPF app off the internet, you can secure it and control the sandbox as to how that runs. So there's more control around that.
So which way we're going to go for the arrow on that? So if we talk about it being most secure or most easily secure, that would be to the right. Yep. Because less chance for us to make a mistake.
Yep.
Now the last one goes maturity. And
I disagree.
Yeah,
we have disagreement.
There are lots of ways you can make a mistake in HTML and JavaScript. There are lots of great examples out there of how easy it is to build a poorly secured web application. So when I said true, that particular exploit, you're absolutely right. But there are lots of other exploits that can be done. They may not attack me directly, but may attack my web application if I've got some shopping site with database dependencies.
And so I guess what that's really about is the security. In some ways, we're saying the ability of the client to damage your machine.
Yeah.
Whereas with an HTML-based application, the client can still go and damage perhaps some website or some data back in a server, or maybe even somebody else's machine. But the ability of the client to actually do destructive damage on the machine is part of it.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because then you get into the whole, well, I could be lured into a luring attack that causes me to go to some site that's got some particularly nasty code on it. You're right, and it's the difficult one. It just depends what you mean by security.
So we end up by saying security is hard.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I guess we can all agree on that. Security is really, really hard.
And S equals well over Dopey.
S still does equal well now.
Sometimes.
Can we say S is approximately equal to 1 over Dopey? I think that's... we will have to for the video. And then maturity, we're all over the spectrum on maturity.
Yes, absolutely.
ASP.NET down here has been around for nearly 10 years, so that's quite old. Silverlight in release form.
I like the word old.
Hey, 10 for a developer technology is old. Silverlight's been around for, sort of six months, something like that, in Silverlight 2.4. So relatively young.
It's only 6 months.
It is, only really 6 months. Windows has been around a long time. WPF's been around since 2006, so I guess that's nearly 3 years old, so middle.
And native Win32, fairly ancient.
Been around forever.
Don't go ancient,
Yeah, so then you can construct an equation that includes all of these elements and produces some universal truth.
And then you just type in some numbers and it works out which one to choose.
Yeah, so I think the upshot of the video is I'm going to go away and I'll write an Excel spreadsheet, and all you will do is you'll type in some numbers here as to what you want, and it will tell you which of these technologies to use. It'll give you the perfect answer. I'll just go off to work on that right now.
Okay, thanks, Alex.